Hey there, spiritualpreneurs. Welcome to our podcast where we talk about all things mental health and spirituality.
That's right. We're your hosts, Biany and Sequoia, and we're here to provide you with the tools, tips, and insights to help you navigate your spiritual journey and maintain your mental wellness.
As millennials, we understand the unique challenges that come with balancing our spiritual practices with our everyday lives. From managing our careers to building relationships, it can be tough to find the time and energy to prioritize our mental and spiritual health.
But that's where we come in. Each episode, we'll be sharing our personal experiences, interviewing experts in the field, and exploring different spiritual practices to support you and ourselves on this journey of unlearning from mental health programs, incorporating spirituality, and embodying our identities as spiritualpreneurs.
So, whether you're a seasoned spiritualpreneur or just starting out on your journey, this podcast is for you. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Get ready to elevate your mental health and spiritual well being.
Let's get started.
I am really excited about today. We have been doing this spiritual practitioners answer series for quite a few episodes. And as always, just really excited to talk to someone new to the platform. Um, and yeah, we are going to talk more about is unlearning the key to unlocking your potential. We're going to reflect on our unlearning practices, what we released from our experiences, and the way we experience alignment with ourselves and folks we serve. We are joined today by an amazing panelist. We're really excited to have her, Ujo, and I'm ready to chat. What about you, Biany? What you
We are
thinking?
ready. We are ready. Welcome, y'all. Reclaiming Soul Work is a heart centered podcast by two queer Black femme healers and spiritual social workers who explore the intersection of magic, spirituality, mental health, and everything in between. My name is Biany. I use she, ella, they pronouns. I'm a Black Latinx, non binary femme, mama, therapist, so many things, right? Um, and a podcaster. Um, and I want to acknowledge the land that I live, work, and play on. Lenny, Lenape Hoking, also known as Philly. And my big three is Cancer Rising, Aries Moon, and Virgo Sun. And yeah, this is me. What about you, mi amiga?
Yeah, thank you. So, hey, everybody. My name is Sequoia. I use she and her pronouns. I am an artist, a business owner, an auntie. I have an emotional support animal named Winnie. You might hear me telling her to stop do naughty things every now and then. Um, I'm an Aquarius sun, Aries moon, and a Libra rising. Um, and we've got what's the energy that we got going on? Is it a Gemini new moon happening
Yes,
soon or
yes.
something like that? So that's what's going on right now. I am currently in North Carolina. I have not done land acknowledgement stuff related to this land, so I cannot speak to that at the moment. But the
That's
next
okay. You
time we get
literally just got there.
together,
You
hmm?
just got you literally just got there.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll get all of that worked in. But always showing gratitude for the land.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's all I want to say about that.
Yes. So, you know, we always want to share with you all why we are revisiting Unlearning as a series. And like Sequoia mentioned, um, we were able to kind of do it through a spiritual practitioner's answer lens where we really invited other experts in the field, other spiritualpreneurs. And, for us, we feel like unlearning is absolutely important. And we're going to share a little bit about our why, like why we're doing this series, why we revisit this topic. And like we mentioned before, it's a part of our like core values, our practices as spiritualpreneurs. And we really feel strongly that like this work of reclaiming our souls, reclaiming ourselves, doing this work in alignment with liberation and freedom, like unlearning is at the foundation of that. And so for us, it's like unlearning is a critical tool. Like you have to have that as a part of your practice. It feels like a must have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, one of the reasons why I feel like it's important for us to continue to revisit this conversation about unlearning um, is because it feels like an anchor to humanity almost, meaning like we're always on the journey to figure out our practices to see if things continue to work for us, you know. And then when they don't, we have to release those things and adopt new practices. And so I feel like it's just a really good anchor and reminder that, wow, we know certain things to be true, about a lot of different areas of our lives. Unlearning is also a knowing as well. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to always talk to other practitioners about their unlearning practices. Again, one, because I just acknowledge that it's just a part of my walk and something that I know I need to be doing. It's an intentional practice for me. I think that just given the climate, and climate meaning within the profession of like social work, therapy, counseling, there are just some really interesting things that are shifting and changing. And so, I think unlearning is at the foundation of that. So here we are.
I love that you're reminding us that unlearning is like an intentional practice, and that
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we do. We have to do it with a lot of courage, compassion, and also be committed to it daily. And for some folks too, like we think of unlearning as our decolonizing practice, right? Like decolonizing not just in theory, but in how we live, right?
Mm-hmm.
How we show up. And so, yeah, absolutely. Yes to yes to everything you said.
Correct.
Yeah.
We ready to move on?
Yes, let's
Okay.
introduce. Yeah, let's get. Okay, I'm gonna introduce Ujo. um, so Ujo Wadjet, her pronouns, is an intuitive wellness coach, personal trainer, and spiritual mentor. Ujo is a future therapist and mental performance consultant. She is currently in a dual master's program for clinical rehabilitation counseling and sport and human performance psychology. Whoa, that sounds really dope.
Mm-hmm.
Ujo is
Mm-hmm.
vegan, lesbian, Army veteran, and a snake mom. She is also the host of the podcast Spirit Wisdom Reset. Welcome to our new friend, Ujo.
Hey
Hello.
everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being with us. We are really excited to um, hop right in. Um, I kind of want to start a little bit with, and I'm sorry, Biany, I just again just hop right in there. I wanted to actually follow up with something that you mentioned. Usual, you are doing some amazing things in the community, and I would love for you to just give us a little bit more insight, a little bit more of an overview about some of the things that you're doing and have going on, whatever you'd like to share.
Yes. Yeah, I have been in the health, wellness, spiritual space for several years. I would say officially, I officially started like my official business in 2016. But I was doing work before then and stuff like that. And Now I am on the path to licensure, and I start clinicals in the fall. So looking forward to to that journey. It's been interesting. I'm sure we'll talk more about that that a little bit later. Um, but I've throughout my journey, it's been, for a while I was like compartmentalizing the health, the fitness, and then spirituality. But as my own spiritual journey progressed, everything started to come together. And so now I'm like, I've been at this intersection of wellness, of fitness, and spirituality, and what that looks like when it comes to just showing up as your authentic self. And so even now, that aspect of mental performance, which is also an aspect of human performance, like how we can show up in our day-to-day lives, how we can show up. It doesn't just have to be about fitness, but in everything that we do, whether it's with work, whether it's with play, whether it's diving deeper into our own spiritual journey. It's how can we be more efficient and more effective in those aspects of our lives. We don't have to necessarily be some elite athlete to perform at a high level. I'm such a huge advocate of being able to perform at a level that is authentic to who you truly are, and that's what I'm hoping to bring to the space with mental performance and therapy and spiritual practices. And I also want to bring up that I didn't even realize this. Today is Women Veterans Day, the 12th of June, as we're recording this. And so as a veteran, I served in the Army for 13 years. And so for all my fellow veterans that are out there, my fellow women veterans, I just want to say, I see you and I thank you. So what are the odds, right?
That's so fun. And that's awesome. And I was also thinking, we didn't even start with like, this is Pride Month. This is Black Music Month, like where we celebrate Juneteenth, right? Like
Yes.
such a like important month. So it feels
is.
like really timely that we're all together today.
Divine alignment. Divine alignment.
Thank you so much for that. I again just feel like there's so many nuggets there. I would love to. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast? And I know that at one point you had like your own solo podcast, and I think that's the podcast that I list on our podcast resource list, and I haven't updated it in a bit, so I don't have your new podcast on there. But could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my solo podcast, which is still active, I haven't posted any new episodes yet, but that's coming, is Fit Body, Fit Spirit. My new podcast, which I have an amazing co-host, Mayet Ajay-Ib, and that is called Spirit Wisdom Reset. And we recently launched that. It's been 2 or 3 months now. And we really just get really real and raw about topics, really sharing our experiences when it comes to being spiritual practitioners, being healers, and sharing like just us as navigating our own journey and the things that we wish that we knew, and the things that practitioners don't really talk about, the things that you just talk about behind the scenes. You should be like, girl, like, what about this? And do you, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, we want to invite people in and make it just like, can we normalize like what this is, and make it more accessible, because everything seems to be so, at least initially in my journey, I'll speak from my experience. It seems to be this mysterious things, and there are some things that should remain that until you get to certain levels. But it's like how it shows up in your day-to-day life when it comes to navigating your spiritual path. It's like, let's just be real about it, and let's talk about how you can be really spiritual. You can be, and you can still just not want to do the things. You can be very intuitive and still not want to do a certain thing. And still have to deal with challenges. And so that's what we talk about. And you can tune in where we do a video podcast, and we're on all audio platforms. So you can, if you prefer audio or video, you can catch us on YouTube or any of your favorite podcasting platforms, and that's Spirit Wisdom Reset.
I was telling Sequoia, I love the vibe y'all have, and it's really refreshing. I think we need more spiritual practitioners who can really normalize that it's not either or kind of experiences, right? That law of attraction don't work for everybody, or that this idea of manifesting isn't always like really supportive or helpful, right? Like the kind of the inside, perspective is so needed. So many people are like in need of that type of support. So I'm really glad that y'all are doing this work, and can't wait to see like more more episodes.
Yes, definitely. And I would love for you all to be on the podcast one day as guests. Yes.
Oh,
All right,
That'd be
we'll talk
amazing.
about
we
that.
love that. Yeah,
Yes,
we
we
love
love
to.
that.
Thank you.
And
Thank
come
you.
back with Maya, and come back with your
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
That would be
It'll
a
be a
lot
whole
of fun.
vibe. It would be, because we
Yeah,
are
that would
crazy.
be
needed.
We are off the chain. So
we would
Yeah,
love
like
that.
y'all vibe is hilarious. Like actually, it is really like we're like listening to y'all sneak peek. Like, did they say that? Okay, yes. Like, give me all of that tea.
I think
Yeah.
one of the things that I offer too about the podcast before we shift into the questions is I I love again like what y'all are doing on your podcast, because it also just shows like there isn't one way to be a spiritual practitioner, like there's so many different ways to show up for a community. And I think that that's really important underneath like the therapist, social worker umbrella, because sometimes to me, sometimes it feels like, we get these messages that you can only be a certain way or only one way is acceptable or something. And so I think like the more folks, listen to y'all's podcast, come on, comment, and our community continues to grow. Like I think it just opens up folks' minds about what a spiritual practitioner can potentially be, So yeah, thank y'all for what you do too.
Well
Um,
received. Thank you. We appreciate that,
yeah.
because, yeah, it's one of those things where, and I think this kind of ties into the topic. One of the things I had to unlearn, because I used to think, oh, I can't cuss if I'm spiritual. I can't. I can't be, drinking, at least in front of people, if I'm supposed to be talking about this, and I have to be. And yeah, that's definitely one of the first lessons. Even my mentor, when I came across her, and I saw her, like I was like, oh, wait a minute, like you can just talk shit, you can just be yourself, and that does not diminish, that doesn't dilute anything that you have to share. It doesn't disregard like what you can do to support and be there for other people. You know what I mean? It doesn't um, disregard your abilities in any way. And yeah, I feel like especially for Black and Brown people, for the BIPOC community, for the LGBTQ plus community, we need to see that, because I didn't see that. I would see it was like in the like queer spiritual space, it was really white.
Yes.
But it was very queer. But then in like the Black spiritual space, it was like all that hotep shit. And it was just like all
Yeah.
the heteronormative hotep, the Ankh, the man, and the Trinity. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but can we get some, like I just needed to find myself, and I couldn't find myself, and I felt like I had to choose, and I was just tired of having to choose.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Well, you said something too about the compartments that we have to live by.
yeah.
And it's something that I'm still unlearning as a
Same.
practitioner, as a parent, as a partner, as a child. Like all the many roles that I occupy, I feel like a lot of this system pressures us to live in compartments.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like a trap because it's like the steps, that's the path to burnout. That's the path to like stress, unwellness. And yeah, like this idea, I honestly felt like I couldn't really be a witch in my social work program, because if I did, somebody would like call me out or challenge me or tell me I'm not really being a, oh, look at that. I love, what is it? Witch's brew. Yeah. But like that, in some ways that it didn't go together, you know, like being a spiritualist, being a intuitive, being a mystic, that all those things didn't really go with being a care professional or a counselor or a therapist or a social worker. And yeah, I'm still unlearning that. And I think that's a daily practice too, like reminding myself, like, no, I can do this work integrated. I don't have to be like therapist here, bruja here, intuitive here, tarot reader here. Like, no, like this is all of me.
Yes. And it's interesting because I believe you mentioned you're a Virgo sun, Aries moon. I'm also a Virgo sun. So my three, I'm a Virgo sun, Aries moon, Sagittarius rising.
What? Okay. I see that fire. You got that
I
fire.
didn't know you were an Aries moon.
So you're
We're
Aries
all
moon.
Aries
All
moon?
are Aries moons.
Whoa.
Yep.
That's so interesting.
I feel like we're gonna have an episode just about Aries moon.
Yes. I absolutely agree.
That's
I
so
think people,
cool.
like, we are really misunderstood. I'm just gonna say that. Aries moons
agree.
are really misunderstood. I have so much rage in me, y'all. I don't know about y'all. I got so much. That's why I love Sequoia, because Sequoia could be angry with me. Like, I have so much rage.
Listen.
So, like,
Same.
hot cauldron. Like, don't touch me because you will meet this fire, baby. Like, I just, woo, coming through with the woo, with the fire, woo. Like, I just,
It's real.
there's
Yes.
something about Aries moon. Ooh.
It's
Yes,
so
it's so true. It's so true. And a lot of my that rage, man, during my first year of graduate school for this degree plan, the rage just, oh my gosh, it almost consumed me. I was like, I was about to drop out because I was just like, this is why Black people don't trust going to therapy. I was like, this is why.
Yep.
And so it really took a lot for me to.
Can you say more about that? I'd like to hear more. What do you mean by that?
Oh yeah, because when I was learning about the theories and just the structure, the history, I'm like, who are these white men with mommy issues? Because I'm done. I'm done. You know what I mean? And I would ask, like, where is the diversity? Like, I understand, okay, this is so westernized too. And I realized that my expectations, I kept them low, but I should have lowered the bar for what I was hoping to get from it. And by that meaning, like, and I think this is because I'm coming from a place where I've already been doing the work, right? So even though I'm technically not a license yet, right? But I've been deep into doing the work and helping people heal and transform and transmute their trauma for years, right? It just wasn't under this term and with these, these letters and these labels.
Right.
And it just made me realize, like, there's actually so many people that have been doing this work, but when it comes to accessibility to this type of education, that's a whole thing. I was pissed off about that. Right. And then it's like how they structure it. And it's like, it's so whitewashed in so many ways. And not saying that these things aren't effective, because yeah, there's stuff to prove that's effective, but then like it's so white. It's so white patriarchal. And that's what really pissed me off. And it also made me realize why it took me so long to even seek therapy for myself. And me as a veteran, with experiences of PTSD and among other things, how even for myself, like, and having access to these things and still not trusting the system. And it's like, this makes sense. And so, yeah, I was just like, so it really, it made me, so this was the thing. There's a part of me that really wanted to quit, but Spirit was like, through the rage is the creation. Yeah, that's where the creation happens, because you get inspired to do something. It's like, you're gonna be mad and stay mad. What you doing? Why? Because what you doing? You're here for a reason. And yeah, and it's interesting because I was initially going. I already have a master's degree in human performance, and I was going to go more deeper into the fitness side and become a strength and conditioning coach and things like that. But then COVID happened and everything shut down. So even though I had my business, and I was also working at a gym downtown as a personal trainer, but then when COVID happened, I'm like, okay, I don't know what's about to happen with this. So what is going to be something that it's not like a huge pivot, but that's going to already complement the work I've already been doing. And for years, people have been calling me a counselor anyway. They're like, you should, like, in my mind, you are my therapist. And I was like, well, this would be the next level that would make sense for what I'm already doing. And that's how I even ended up here in the first place. And so Spirit had to check me and was just like, yeah, okay, be mad or stay mad, or what are we creating now? Use this fire, that rage, that Aries moon rage, use it for something. And that's where the magic happens.
Baby. I'm just like, yes, through the rage is where the creation happens. Ooh, yeah. That is a word. Something you're saying is resonating, and I think this might be really helpful for our listeners and viewers, because we've had some we just had an episode 2 weeks ago about the pros and cons of licensing. And we talk a lot about the nuances of licensing, like what it means and what it takes. But I really like that you're coming from this perspective of like, I'm doing this work and I don't really fully agree with what I'm learning, like that you're holding the unlearning while you're in this process. And I think that's really helpful for folks who are tuning in, because so many of us might feel like, oh, we don't belong in these programs, or we don't agree with it fully. And yet you do belong, right? Like you belong here. And yeah, we get why our people might not really trust. There's a lot of reasons for them not to trust therapists. And they might not trust us just because we look like them either, right? Like a lot of this is around our practices, like the unlearning that you're doing. But yeah, I think for those who are watching and listening, like they might really resonate with you too, because we have some folks who are in their programs and they're struggling. And they need to hear like, yo, I'm pissed. I'm pissed too. So in that rage, what do you make? What can you create from that? I love that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's so important. And it's through that, because, again, me going, I'm in my group, I'm like, one of the only Black people. And I'm the oldest, if not one of the oldest typically, right? So still that demographic of majority white women that are, kind of, those statistics are still measured. And I'm just looking at it like, yeah, we need to bring more of us in. We do, so we can dismantle it. And yeah, okay, we could take this and then we gotta flip it. We have to dismantle it. We have to infiltrate the system. You see what I'm saying? Because part of it, and this is where, so one of the sparks of inspiration that came through this is realizing how what perpetuates the problem is the actual education, and how there's such a lack of cultural competence within the education system. Like, so we talk about it, and you get your cute little multicultural class, real cute, and depending on your teacher, but it's like depending on where you're starting from, like that level, if you've never had to deal with your own racial trauma, if you've never had to deal with even where you stand, and even recognizing your own stuff and doing your own work, how can you show up for somebody else? And what's that going to look like when it comes through that lens of multiculturalism? And then when it comes to like, so even though I feel like it's talked about, but it's not deep enough. And so, and I'm realizing too that, you know, school is just to inform. It's just to get you through the basics of some things, and it's up to you to really do the work. And that's why it's like where you have to bring your own sauce to it. And we can't, and we go into it thinking that, oh, they're going to tell me everything I need to know, and I'm going to be supported and fully. No, it don't work that way.
Well, I love what you're saying too around unlearning, right? This idea that we come in as blank slates and they're filling us with the knowledge, and then we're supposed to go out in the world with their knowledge, quote unquote, their knowledge, when really you're right. Like, we bring the sauce, we bring all the ingredients, and we have to make something with that. But yeah, having to unlearn this idea that we are like empty, that we don't have the knowledge already with us. Well, like you said too, people in your community already called you a counselor, already called you a therapist. And to me, that is connected to like how this work is ancient, is ancestral. It was here before they called it therapy, you know, that folks in our community were the healers, were the therapists, were the historians, were the storytellers, right? Like, the fact that people in your community called you already what you were, and that degree isn't going to, no shade, but it's not going to change that. Like, you already are that. And I think that's some unlearning that I want to offer people who are listening to. Like, what brought you to this work, right? Like, the thing that brought you to this work is the thing. It's like what you already are in a lot of ways too. But yeah, I love that. Like, we bring the sauce. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to, and we've already kind of gotten into this a little bit, about some of the biggest challenges of or with unlearning. And I think y'all are already kind of touching on that, especially with this education piece and thinking about cultural competence. Any additional thoughts about like what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced, you know, while you've been on your unlearning journey, with your mental health program or in the community, you know, meaning like your practices versus, let's say, like what an organization will support or something like that, you know. We've talked quite extensively about some of our previous challenges, and for myself, you know, it has definitely been more around the realms of not having the opportunities that I would like with CEUs, for instance. So like, I don't want to do any more CBT CEUs. I would love to do, you know, an ATR and therapy type of like CEU, for instance, right? So like limited opportunities around learning that incorporate other types of practices and things like that. Yeah, what y'all think?
Man, I am it's so funny. I was in class today and we were talking about CBT. And I'm so tired of it. I'm tired. I was like, everything. I'm just like, is there anything else? Like, what is this? But one of the things has been the challenges. Well, first is like, okay, we have to learn how to play the game. We have to learn the rules. And then once we know how to play by the rules, then we know what rules we can break and when we can create our own rules. And by that meaning, I'm not saying do things to compromise your licensure or anything like that, but I'm saying like when it comes to like understanding where this all stems from, what the sources are, whatever, and then like how can you take this stuff and make it your own, and what are the things that that are valid and that you do resonate with, and then what things aren't. And sometimes it's just, the other part is like how it connects with insurance companies, but that's, I feel like that could be a whole nother conversation on its own. But I feel like that the challenge for me has been, is having to learn the rules, because I'm like, fuck these rules. I already have my own rules. And so for me, it's been like that Aries moon. It's been like, Carl, will you sit down? Sit down. And because I feel like I'm, in certain ways, I feel like I'm going backwards, because, oh, let me go back to where this thing, to learn these things and how they're doing it. Because it's like I already have my own way. And so that's been a frustration for me. And just an internal frustration, but I know that it is important to understand like the basic structures and where this stems from. But because I, that intuitively, it's just like, it just makes me itch with rage to be like, what is this? What is this? We already have what we need, but yeah, I feel like that's been one of my biggest challenges for sure, having to learn their rules and play by these rules, and go through these steps to get to where I already am, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I really appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
Ujo, because I think that's true. A lot of this is around knowing the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other challenge is definitely like getting to a point where I have that, where I have the capacity, right? Managing my own capacity, because there's so many things that I want to do, but it's just like, I don't have the capacity for that, mentally, physically, energetically. And it's like, some of that is going to take some time, and I need to just start to make a name for myself in the field before I can even do some of the things that I really could see myself doing when it comes to, changing things. I feel like everything is so, we're at the bottom, like just working from, but really we have to take a two-pronged approach from the bottom and the top. And we have to look at these things systemically, and not just from what's happening within the community. We have to do both. And so that other challenge for me is like, it's like I need to pace myself, and I can't do everything right now, and I don't have the capacity to do those things right now. And so yeah, that's been another one, just to pace myself and not try to do too much too soon.
I really appreciate that, because what you're saying also kind of brings me back to something you said at the top of our chat, which is doing your own work, and we all identify, within the LGBTQIA plus community, and thinking about like a challenge for me has also been like, it's kind of like doing all the things at one time that are like really associated with our divination spread. So like unlearning, learning, relearning, queer community stuff, unlearning the things that have or weren't taught in school, compared to like what my life is like, what I know the community to be like, what my clients come in for support around, and then again, just going back to what I initially said, which is like the lack of access to certain opportunities, right? So like a lot of things are very nuanced. Let me say it like that. Are very nuanced, related to our community and therapy and spirituality specifically too, especially around things like religious trauma and so on and so forth. I find that to also be just a really big challenge, and a place that I'm always like wanting to talk to other practitioners, that identify just like what are the trends, that we're seeing in our communities with our clients. What are some of the challenges that we see in our, either in therapy or during a tarot reading, or during a fitness session, like things that are coming up while you're talking, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to offer that as well. um
that I really feel like you're bringing up something that's really important, that is a challenge, in the sense that we keep being invited to look at healing as these like separate silos. Like, you go to your talk therapist, you go to yoga, you go to your Reiki practitioner, you go to your spiritualist, you go to your curandero. Like, there's all these ways that there's nothing that feels like integrative in the work. Oh, you go to your tarot reader, you go to your herbalist, you go to your body worker, you go to your root worker. Like, I'm not saying that I don't know. I agree. The challenge for me is often wanting more integration, wanting more like when I'm talking to my clients, I really am coming in as a spiritualist, being like, okay, how's your sleep? When's the what tell me about what you ate today. Are you hydrated? When's the last time you got body work done? Like, I recommend healers that I know in the community, but I also know that I have to do that with a lot of intention and doing a lot of my work, my inner work, to show up to be like, hey, my client actually doesn't need talk therapy right now. They need somatic work, or they need to really connect with their ancestral, cultural practices, or they might need to do some altar work. Like, we might need to work on altars and like really connect, right? Like, I feel like a lot of healing still is like everything is in a compartment. And I find that to be a challenge when we're thinking about health and wellness. And I really like, Ujo, that you're sort of talking about really integrating your work. And it sounds like you've had the experience. I'm curious about like how your unlearning journey, like how it's informed your spiritual work, and what you envision, like when you're done with this program, like what your work's going to look like. I know that's two questions, but you can answer whichever one you feel like, called to.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like at this point, it's like I have done so much of my own inner work, and then also supporting others. And now I've, being called to like, okay, it's time to take things to this next level. Right. And that level. And so back in the day when I was doing this compartmentalization, those things were needed at the time. And now it's time to take that to your point, right? Because I'm like, yeah, sometimes we don't need this talk therapy thing. Sometimes we need something else. Sometimes we need to just sort through our stuff and we don't know how to articulate it. Sometimes we're not connected to who we are spiritually, because to Sequoia's point about like religion versus spirituality and kind of spiritual identity, and I'm all about creating a spiritually inclusive space. So I'm very particular about the words that I use, and when I share certain things, it's like, insert whatever term resonates with you, because this isn't about this isn't about right or wrong for what you believe in. It's about connecting and finding that connection and how you connect with it. And these are the tools I can work with anyone. And so and how it can support you with what you need right now, because I feel like that's a huge disconnect within the mental health space, right? At least when it comes to therapy, it's like this religious or spirituality thing has to be, I just feel like it's such a disconnect. And also when it comes to the body, right? It's either all body stuff, right? Then sometimes it's just too much of that, and then you're not connecting the other things. And so I do feel like what I see for myself is bringing all these things together. And that's actually some of the things I'm working on now, is like, what is that going to look like? And putting some of my own frameworks and these things together. And, eventually I'll do some trial runs of some programs or some workshops, and just to get some feedback so I can continue to refine what that could look like. And eventually I would love to have, big picture would be to have a wellness center that incorporates all of these things, and is a space, for, especially for independent practitioners, as well, where all of these things are accessible, and that they can use that for the people that they serve, but also for themselves.
I love that. I'm wishing that for you too. We need it. We need what you have to offer us.
Thank you.
You also, yeah, go ahead, Sequoia.
I don't. You go ahead. I don't know where. I think I was going to lead us into the next thing, but please, if you want to keep
Yeah.
talking about something right now related to
No,
this,
I just wanted to like bookmark or like just highlight what you said around being spiritually inclusive. Like that's so important. And something you said around like language, like the role that language plays in being spiritually inclusive. I just wanted to just say that. Thank you for reminding us of that and how important it is and the distinction between religion and spirituality and what does it mean to create an inclusive community, like an inclusive spiritual community. So thank you. That was it.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight to your point, right? Because I feel like, especially within the queer space, that term, because you'll hear that, oh, religion and spirituality is the same thing, but we need to look at the context. Because for me, as a Black lesbian who was raised in a heterosexual Christian household, right? Raised, it's like, okay, me stepping into my identity and always and remembering and recognizing who I am and learning that that is actually considered wrong or a sin or I'm going to burn in hell or whatever, and how that's tied to religion, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it was very important. Like I needed to separate myself from that. I had to like sort through that, and it took me years to do that, right? To even, and that's a really, man, that's a whole other topic too, right? When it comes to your identity and trying to just find, it's like, okay, how there are things that I resonate with and believe about this religion or whatever that I grew up with, or I feel these things, but how is this against everything? It's teaching me to be against everything that I actually am. So like it's this whole thing. And so in that context, it's really important to be able to separate the two, because not everybody has healed from that aspect of religious trauma, direct or indirect, because it happens at, it's ingrained in our society. And so I feel like that context is important, and spirituality feels a bit, definitely feels more receptive. People are more receptive to that. Intuition is more receptive. And so, yeah, I feel like that context is really important, especially for the queer community, at least from my experience anyway.
We totally agree. Absolutely. We talk about that a little bit on our IG page. Like we have these, we think are really core values of what makes a spiritual practitioner, spiritualpreneur, like looking at spirituality and acknowledging religious trauma and abuse and the impact it's had on BIPOC and queer and trans folks, like for sure. Thank you. Yeah, there's so much alignment between us, just like astrologically and kind of like the way even things that you're sharing are things that we've talked about in the podcast. So I'm really grateful to have your wisdom here with us. So yeah, go ahead, Sequoia.
I was just gonna say, again, I think that we've transitioned, into kind of this second question, a little bit related to advice, to start your unlearning journey. And I think that there's something really interesting to be said about, starting with the self, especially if you're, a practitioner, around unlearning and just looking at the things that you've had to unpack personally to be able to support folks in this particular way. So just wondering, do you have any kind of advice for folks that are listening that, might be interested in looking more at their unlearning journey? Any tips on where to start?
Yes. My advice would be to remember that you can and should challenge your own beliefs on a regular basis. You should challenge them and you should question them, because who you were and what you believed a year ago, that's going to change. And that's okay. That's part of the process. That's part of the journey. Because what was true to you then was true to you then, but you have new information now. You have new experiences now. You have new perspectives now. And in order for you to truly grow, you have to be willing to accept and recognize that what you believed was true is no longer true to you, and that it's okay, and that you're not wrong for that. Because I feel like we get so stuck. It's like, oh well, this is what I learned, this is what I believe, and this is what it has to be. That's what it was then, yeah, and that was true in that moment. And there's more, and it's different, and there's a new perspective, right? It's just your truth evolves as you evolve. And so I feel like that is the best piece of advice that I feel like people don't talk enough about. That, like, challenge your own beliefs, because the world's going to constantly be challenging and trying to make you question yourself in so many different ways. But no, when it comes to you navigating your own truth, because you're like guiding your inner compass, you have to recalibrate that. And you do that by challenging and questions like, oh, why do I believe this? Why did I believe this in this way? Oh, because this is all I knew about this at this time. And now you have new information. And so, just, it's about challenging, questioning, and expanding your truth. So yeah, I can keep going on about that, but I'll put a pin right there for that.
Thank you for that. It's such an important reminder for us. And I love that you said the truth evolves as you evolve.
Yeah.
Like, that is, what a way to kind of, yes, the truth evolves as you evolve. Absolutely. I love that.
Thank you.
So we're at the end. We're wrapping up now. And we want to ask you one final question, and then we'll move on to the main takeaways. I feel like we kind of touched on this, but are there any mental health and spirituality issues that you like to see us have more conversations on?
I would like more conversations on what it looks like to bridge the gaps within the community, like more collaborative, take a more collaborative approach, and what that looks like to build a network that is for us by us, because I feel like that is what's missing. And the more that we create visibility around that, the more we can create more resources for more people in a way that is accessible and is literally designed for our community. That's what I would like to see.
Oh, I love that. And can you, okay, so I mean, I feel there's so much to say about that, but yes, I would love that. Are there, where can folks, I mean, we talked about your podcast for sure, Spirit Wisdom Reset. Is there anything you'd like to share with our community about future offerings? You mentioned thinking about workshops, but where can folks find you? And if you have things coming up that we should be looking out for and that we love to share with our folks?
Sure. You can find me at Ujo Wadjet on all platforms. I will be doing, actually later this week, in honor of the upcoming summer solstice, on the 15th of June, I'll be doing collective energy readings for the upcoming summer season. I do seasonal collective energy readings, and so that'll be happening this week. And I also offer a tarot reading seasonally, and so that's coming up for the summer, and I'll have a summer special for that. I have a tarot journal that's out on Amazon, Trust Your Intuition Daily Tarot Journal, if you're interested in that. My website, ujowadjet.com, and you can join my email list there, and so you'll know when I have workshops coming up. And Oh, actually, I do have a workshop coming up next week at Han Training. It's a queer BIPOC fitness facility in Chicago. And we'll be talking about centering your wellness journey. So I'm looking forward to that. And I can, and that's more on the, mental human performance aspect of things. So yeah, if you're in that area, if you're in Chicago, you can definitely check that out.
Okay. You have some amazing offerings, and I love that they feel so integrative and connected. I just appreciate that. And you started with like, oh, I don't know if I have offerings. Then you kind of gave us all the offerings.
I know, I'd be forgetting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, I have this and this.
You forgetting how dope you are, all the gems you drop and all the support. All right. So what are our takeaways from today's episode? And for those who are watching the playback or who are here with us, please let us know in the comments. And for those on IG, let us know in the comments your takeaways from today's episode. I'll pass it over to one of y'all. Who wants to go first and share their takeaways?
I can go first. For me, one of the main takeaways is, well, I might have two today. One is, I cannot believe that we're all Aries moons. That's the first thing. Okay. That's number one. All right. Number one. Okay. I just think that is so dope. And I don't know what that means in the larger scheme of things, but I just find that very interesting. So that's the first thing. Second main takeaway is, and speaking to, the piece about more of a collaborative approach and, building networks, I greatly appreciate you coming on today and just chopping it up with us for a moment about, this topic. And just kind of expanding again, continuing to help us expand folks' understanding about what a spiritual practitioner does, what our lives are like, how we come together, why this is an important topic, but then also why this is an important community. So, okay, those are my two.
All right, what about you, Ujo?
My takeaway is, well, first, just gratitude for inviting me into this space. I really appreciate that. And you all are already starting to do that work, right? Like with you having these conversations, I think it's really important. And I definitely am excited to see where this continues to go and how this continues to grow. Because even that term spiritual practitioner, right? Like being able to say that and just normalize that. It doesn't have to be, where you're passing a note, like you have to go to this person over here. Like it doesn't have to be this secret thing. And so I feel like, that's been a big takeaway for me, just being able to talk about these things publicly and normalizing that we exist. You know what I mean? Like here we are talking about these things. It doesn't have to be this taboo thing anymore. So that is my takeaway.
I love that. Like we're not in the closet. We're here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In more ways than one, we are not in the closet.
Right. In so many ways. I have so many takeaways, and I appreciate, I'm really sitting with what it means to be with other Aries moons, because that hasn't been my experience. But I think I really I'm grateful for the wisdom you dropped. Like I wrote some notes like about rage, the magic of rage, and how we get to really channel that to create. And it made me think of the fire element. It made me think of the tarot card, the tower. It just made me think of like the kind of the wisdom that comes with rage. So I'm really sitting with that. I'm grateful. And then the other takeaway is around, you really invited us to come back to like ourselves in our unlearning. And I really hope for those who are tuning in that that you all can really sit with that too. Like a lot of unlearning starts with us. Like it's our work. And that work impacts the collective because we are a part of the collective, right? Like there's no self without a collective. So, and vice versa. So yeah, those two are really staying with me. And so I'm grateful for that wisdom. And again, for those who are tuning in, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what takeaways really like emerged for you. Um, and if there's anything that, you want to hear more about, let us know in the comments too, because we could definitely bring Ujo back on and have this Aries moon vibe going. But yeah, let us know in the comments what your takeaways were.
That is wonderful. And of course, right before we hit go live, I was running around telling Biany I was looking for my iPad charger, and I just needed to charge my iPad to 5%, and that'll be good. Like, it's gonna last me. Of course, it has not.
I can
And
do it.
so this last part, I just want to thank. I want to thank you all so much for being here. Folks that are with us watching, like, thank you for being here with us. Let us know where you may be tuning in from. Let us know your name, what you think about how this resonated. This is our last episode for this season. Okay, this is episode 20. We are wrapping up season 3. We're going to come back in the fall with season 4, with more amazing panelists, talking about all of the things again. Did I say everything I was supposed to say?
You did. Yes, we're so happy that Ujo is with us in this final season. I'm also thinking 20, and now there's a solstice happening, right? The number 20 is sitting with me, 20 as the judgment card in tarot. Now I'm like in a loop of 20. But this is the end of season 3, and we're so glad that y'all could be with us on this ride. We'll be back in the fall. Thank you so much for being in community with us and supporting a heart-centered podcast by 2 queer Black femme healers and spiritual social workers who explore the intersection of magic, spirituality, mental health, and everything in between. We would love to stay connected with you. We are building the spiritualpreneur and healing community. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page, our Reclaiming Soul Work podcast. And when you subscribe, you can set reminders for notifications every time we release an episode. Sign up to our landing page on our website, and make sure that you sign up for our free monthly newsletter, our first quarter moon, where you'll get first dibs on offerings, events, and updates coming from us. And make sure you follow us on socials, especially IG. We got some things cooking on IG. You'll be meeting some more spiritual practitioners, and we'll do some really dope tarot readings with our signature spread. So yeah, stay connected with us. We might be taking a break from YouTube, but we're still on socials, and stay we're here. We're not going anywhere. So thank you. We'll see y'all soon.